In this tutorial, we're going to do a custom ControlNet workflow in ComfyUI. So I'm going to walk you through how to call some of the nodes, load up models, and build your own custom workflows, basically. So there are two ways you can create nodes in ComfyUI. You can either right-click and try to find the node, which might be a bit difficult because this is not like Grasshopper where you get that type of icons for the plugins that you want to use. But normally for basic stuff, you go to loaders. So let me see if I can find them. If you go to, let's see, where was it? Miscellaneous loaders. If you go to loaders, and these are basically your basic like ControlNet models, checkpoints, LoRa's. Like these are the this is what we normally start with. So if you do load checkpoint, this will start with the available models to us. So I'm going to start with SDXL for this exercise. And then the next is you want to look up some clip text encoders. So if you go here, this is where we write our prompt. So the checkpoint has three things: the model, the variational autoencoder, and the clip. And these will actually be connected to other nodes for the generative workflow that we want to do. So let's start with kind of basic. So this goes to clip. We can also do another prompt encoder for the negative prompts. So let's say here we want to create a modern house, natural environment, wood, glass, and concrete. Let's say those are the materials I want to add, and watermark text is what I usually put into negative prompt. And the next thing is we want to do a case sampler so that we can test this actually. So the model goes to the model node in the case sampler, and the conditioning for positive and negative goes here. And we can create an empty latent image for the type of, like for the image resolution that we want to create. Since we're doing SDXL, we can do 1024 for both of those. So this connects to the latent image. And from latent image, we need to decode the image. So if I do BAE decode, this takes in the latent samples, and then the variational autoencoder goes here. So that's essentially your basic workflow. And the rest is you can do either preview image if you want to just see it, or you can also do save image, which is it just not only previews it but also saves it with kind of a name tag. So we can do ControlNet, for instance, for this exercise. And I'm going to just delete the preview image because this already does show the preview. So let's run this first and see what we get. It's going to load up our model and use the clip parameters that we input. And there it is. So we have a modern house, natural setting, wood, concrete, and glass, basically. Okay, now let's say we want to include ControlNets for this workflow. So how do we do it? The first thing is we need to basically load the ControlNets. So you can basically double click here and load ControlNet model, or you can simply go right click, add node, loaders, load ControlNet model. So since this is SDXL, we want to use an SDXL model. And I'm going to switch to Union SDXL because we're going to use multiple models anyway, so we can just load one. This has them all. And then the next one is you want to apply the ControlNet. So this is located on the conditioning ControlNet. You can go to right-click, conditioning, ControlNet, and apply ControlNet. So the trick here is to place this in between the clip and the case sampler. That's kind of where it has any effect. So the positive prompt goes to the positive, the negative prompt goes to the negative, the control net connects here, and now we also need an image so that we can use the control net. We basically need to also process the images. So let's double click and type in load image. So we have to load an image. While I was trying out some other stuff, so I pulled up like a Gothic cathedral. Let's see. Let's go back here, and I'm going to use this image. Or let's start with this one. I think this gave me better results last time. And what I want to do is basically process this some way. So we need to do basically Canny edge. So we need to do ControlNet preprocessor. So let me see. This is located under add node, ControlNet preprocessors, and this is kind of a line extractor. So if you go to line extractors, Canny edge is here. We can also use scribble lines, line art, or other types of preprocessors. I haven't had time to look at all of those, but you might want to actually check them. But for the type of edge detection we want to use, you want to just specify the type of control net, basically. So I'm going to click here, connect my input image to the Canny edge. And it's nice to actually see what these kind of give out. So we don't need to save these. So we can just like preview what the preprocessor does. So I'm going to disable this for now and just run this. So there you go. So it's detecting the edges of my input image. And we can also customize the threshold. So if you use higher values here, like it will filter some of the edges out based on the contrast. Let's see, if I do 200 to 255, it doesn't give me like good edges. So the rule of thumb is like it gives kind of a good composition between 100 and 200 values. Okay, so I have, what's nice is like I set up the resolution to be 5:12, but it's keeping the aspect ratio relative to the image. So now we have a preprocessor that is 680 by 512, and this will go to the apply control net. So the image that we get from the preprocessor will go directly into the control net. And since we are already taking the clip, this will go to the positive and the negative prompts in the case sampler. And essentially that's it. So this will apply the Canny model to our image generation process, and we can control its strength and percentages here. So the percentage controls like what time you want that control net to be active in image generation, and the strength is basically the overall strength of these edges, right? So how much you want to preserve these edges in the final image. Okay, so let's run this to see if we get some interesting results. I actually have 1024 by 1024. Maybe we want to, well, that's pretty good actually. Let's bring it down here. So the resulting image, I think, cropped the Canny image because you can see the aspect ratio is different. So this is kind of a square image. If you want to use let's say the resolution of the input image, then I think there's a way we can get image size, and I can simply use the width and the height of it here. So if I put these in, it will basically generate this resolution. So it will keep the aspect ratio the same. And the batch size is how many images you want to be generated, basically. So let's run it again. Now we should get a resolution that is 1232 by 928. So since this is SDXL, I think it can handle it well. Well, yeah, not so bad. I mean, it generated a 3 here, and it has some, I guess, like some fuzzy edges, but it's pretty good for SDXL, in my opinion. Okay, now we implemented Canny, so let's separate it here. So I'm going to just select this and make it into a group and call it Canny. So I'm going to drag this underneath area here. So now those things will move together. All right. Now, if you want to, let's say, apply another type of control net, the trick is to actually chain them up. And that will basically allow you to sequentially manipulate the image. So I can just make a copy of this, or we can simply call ControlNet as well. So apply ControlNet, and we can connect this time. So let's say we want to process Canny first, and then we want to process the depth. So this goes to positive, this goes to negative, and the ControlNet is basically the union, the same ControlNet. And the image, though, will have to take in the original image. So we have to basically, let's see, we have to create a node combiner. Let's see, do we have? So I think if I click here, it will just add a node, or it doesn't like reroute. And also, I guess branch it. Very, very interesting. So the way the interface works. Let me see, delete reroute, add node. We can do, is there like a blank node? Sleep node, error node. I guess I'm looking for something like this here. Let me see. Paste it, but it's reroute. Reroute. So if I put it here, and then this goes here. So okay, this can basically help us chain things. So this is reroute, and I'm just going to keep it running here at the bottom. So just connect the original image. And here I'm going to do depth. So for depth, we can use a bunch of different things like the Zoe depth map, Midas, depth anything. Some of these might require you to load the model as well. Depth anything already comes in loaded, so you don't need to load anything else. So if you plug this in, and let's say we want to generate a preview image as well. So let's say this goes here, and then the image goes here. Now we want to apply, let's say, the depth as well. So this goes here. So what will happen is basically the clip will be chained to first Canny and then to depth, and this will be applied 50%. Let's say we want to apply the depth 50% as well. And both of those will have an effect on the image. So when I run this, what the depth does is it basically detects kind of depth in the image. So you can see it's kind of getting like a three-dimensional data almost. And that can be very useful to create more depth in the final image. I mean, this is now trying to add more depth. And I'm still using SDXL. So let's switch to Juggernaut, which has better architectural imagery. Let's run it. I'm also going to group this part as well. Let's call it depth. And for the groups, you can just give it a custom color here and just like draw the boundary around it so that you can move it all together like a group. So it keeps things nicely organized. Okay, there you go. Very nice. So this is now taking effect, both the Canny edges and the depth, and it's keeping the resolution as well. Now let's see if we can add one more. Let's actually add scribble lines to this. So I'm going to move this aside and then do scribble lines. It's like another line processor basically. So I'm going to create another reroute. This goes here, and let's move it here. and connect it here. And let's make a preview image. I'm doing it right after Canny because it's also processing edges. So you connect the same ControlNet. Let's rewire these here. Then this goes to the depth now. And the image comes from here. So this will apply scribble lines by 50%. So I'm going to group this as well. Scribble. All right, so let's try this and see how it goes. So all of them are now being applied 50%. Scribble basically turns the input image into a sketch. So this will just preserve these sorts of features. Let's see what the end result is going to look like. Interesting. So I guess it's kind of adding more darker tones here, since it's kind of like how the sketch is being generated. But it's giving like a very nice controlled result. Let's actually change the input image. I'm going to try something else. I want to try this one. And let's have a more detailed prompt for this. So I'm going to use contemporary house, modern house, and we had these prompts for the negative prompt. So let's run this now. So I'm wondering if this will become like a conceptual house with like cantilevering elements. We have like multiple maps here, so I'm interested in like how it will process it. One last thing we can add to this is the upscaler, so that the workflow will be complete essentially. All right, so 3 control nets. Let's see what we get. Ooh, so it wasn't able to process this as much as I would like. So it's generated like a 2000 by 2000 image. Maybe that's the issue because this is like blowing up the resolution a bit. So we might have to reduce it or get it down to like an exact ratio. So we can do like an upscale image here, and we can just, like in our case, this will be downscaling it essentially, but since it's struggling to generate a 2000 by 2000 image, let's see if I put this in, that should now replace the resolution to 1024. And I think it should give us like a better result, but let me see. Large glass facade, rectilinear volumes, rock house on a rock. Let's see if that will take it in effect. Okay, now the key thing is, like, if you start getting some images, the key thing would be to start balancing these control nets, like playing around with strengths, or like keeping some of the features for some of the models that you want. So it's, again, give me a nice result. But let's say we like the effect in the sketch, but we don't like the effect here. You can actually reduce it a bit. And let's say we want to have like 25% effect, and we want the effect to be only like 60% in. And then you might want this to take over. So you can do 0.6 onwards, it will apply scribble lines, and the depth can stay all along. So again, we can control the strength, the timing of how these control nets will be applied, and test out basically the result. Very nice. So it's now generating something a lot better, and it's kind of reminiscent of my input image. So let's add one more thing to this, which is the upscale, because I'm getting 1024 by 1024, but let's say you want high resolution images. So we can do upscale image, but there's also upscale model loader. So we can use upscale like 4x ultra sharp, and we can do upscale image using model. So this is my upscale model, and this is my image. Can we control how much upscale image by? There's an upscale image by scale image to total pixels. I guess upscale method scale by. Okay, I guess these would work. This 4x will just, I think, double up this image, so we can try it actually. We can do preview image here. So we see the first low resolution, and then we see the high resolution here. And this one we can also test. So I'll get this to scale by, say, 4 times, which will take a lot, but save image and see which one looks best. This is a model that is specializing in upscaling, whereas this one would be just the native upscaler. So batch size 1. I'm kind of happy with the end result, but we can also try something else, like increment the depth, for instance. This also picks up very nicely. Maybe we reduce the influence of this to 40, and then this picks up after like 0.2. So you can test out different parameters essentially with this type of workflow. Okay, so it's first going to generate my image, which ended up being like this. And then this is the 4x, right, 4 times upscaler, and this is the native. I guess they kind of work the same. I don't see any type of issue here, but it's a very nice high resolution image that we were able to produce. There's some sort of perspectival issue here, but other than that, it's working very nicely. So I hope this is helpful. So we kind of covered it all, actually, like how you can load an image, load checkpoints, use multiple control nets, and upscale the image at the end. And the nice thing about this one is, like, if you add a kill switch here, this scribble wouldn't take any effect, but the workflow would work. So let's say I want to cancel Canny and run this. Because these are kind of like gates, it will still pass in the information, right? So if you don't want Canny to have any effect, you can just disable it, and that'll be taken out of the equation. So now I got a different result, something like this. Okay, so I hope you have fun with this. I think it's very exciting tools you can build with ComfyUI, like different types of workflows using control nets. And if you're interested in more videos like this, you can stick with the channel, and I'll be uploading more tutorials on other ComfyUI workflows. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.